Hello my friends, my name is Stevie B, and in this video I'm going to showcase the full version of Navia Harp for HALion by Sonic Adams. I'm really excited to show you how to use this instrument in a more contemporary context, and I thought it would be cool to step away from the orchestral realm and write something that's inspired by legendary harpists like Dorothy Ashby and Alice Coltrane. So my goal initially here was to write a really simple backing track, and I love taking organic elements like recording my acoustic guitars and blending that with virtual instruments like drums, organ, and of course the harp in the case of this track, to create a really rich and realistic sound. In order to do that effectively, it's really important that the virtual instruments that I'm using incorporate dynamic layering and round-robin sampling. So round-robins just refers to multiple variations of the same note in order to avoid repetition and to help the sample library feel like a more varied, natural performance. And that's one of the key differences between the free and the full version of Navia Harp, and it makes a world of difference. Now, you've probably already heard of the free version, and I recommend checking it out. It's great. The free version features a single dynamic layer and round robin. It also features all these great onboard effects here, which I'll come back to in a bit. And there's a lot that you can do with the free version. It's super cool. Now, switching over to the full version here, it's amazing how much difference 3 dynamic layers and round robins make. Just so much more depth and realism. It really is beautiful. Now, on top of that, the full version also includes a variety of playing techniques and mic mixes, which were essential for dialing in the right vibe for the track that I wrote. So what I want to do right now is, first of all, I want to show you how this composition came together. Then we're going to put the finishing touches on it using some of the particle techniques that come with the full version of Navia Harp. Let's get right into it. So the bed tracks here are really basic. I started off with this drum loop using one of the Groove Agent kits, which sounds like this. Once I had the drums, added some acoustic guitar to the mix. And then added the bass. And the organ. For the organ, used the Model C Classic Gospel Patch number 2. So this being a more contemporary approach to using the harp as a lead instrument, I wanted to make sure that I was capturing as much intimacy as possible from the harp itself. So there's different ways that we can approach that, and we have several program patches that come with the full version that have multiple mic mixes. For example, I have the regular solo pulled up here, and you can see that we've got a room, main, and close mic mix. So listening to the close mic on its own, maybe bring in a bit of room. You can really hear how these two fill out the sound. We could even pan them left and right if we want. And if I wanted something that sounded more intimate, then I could just rely on the close mic on its own, maybe even get rid of the reverb, some of the other processing. Which is beautiful. It sounds awesome. But ultimately, what I thought suited this track the best was the super close mono mix. And without any processing on it, it sounds like this. It's a gorgeous sound. Feels like I'm right there in front of it. I ended up adding a little reverb to it, just a tiny bit in the mix at around 10%. Also adding a slight bit of tube drive to it as well. Just to push it a little bit more towards that like late 60s, early 70s kind of vibe. And it is just sitting so nicely with the rest of the instrumentation here. Now, for those of you out there like myself who don't really have too much in the way of chops on the keys, let me assure you that most of what you're seeing here in the MIDI is either drawn in or just performed piece by piece. So I've got enough skills that, you know, I'm basically able to put the melody down, and that's what I did for the most part throughout the track. Now, I've never played a harp in my life, of course, and I had to kind of, you know, think like a harpist would. So once I outlined and I doubled these melodic parts, then I started to add in some arpeggiated sweeps like this one here. And then, of course, those glissandos. So doing my best to kind of sweep into those important notes in the melody. And for these epic glissando parts here, I actually used a MIDI step sequencer. And I'll show you exactly how that works shortly. But first, I want to switch gears here because this track actually isn't finished. I want to add something to this B section here where the shakers come in. So there's a nice tone shift there, but it still needs a little something. So the question is, how do we bring this section to life and distinguish it from the rest of the track? Well, I've got a few ideas. So I've got one of these particle patches loaded up here. This is the super close mix. And the particle patches are so cool because there's a few different articulations that we can use, and you can assign them to certain areas of the key range. We can go from something that sounds like really sparse, like this, to something more consistent. So cool. Now, what I'm thinking is adding like texturized swells throughout this section. So I've mapped the mod wheel to my volume. I'm going a little bit heavier on the reverb here at about 25%, also adding in some delay and tape delay as well, which just sounds lovely. So let's go ahead and record this part in, see what happens. Okay, really cool. I'm gonna pan that left. I'm gonna copy this track and pan it right. And we'll do the same thing, but we'll use a different chord inversion. Let's see if that works. Okay, here we go. How amazing is that? Just listening to these with the acoustic guitar and bass. Just beautiful texturization. You could see how powerful these particle patches would be if you were working in a more cinematic context, say like doing a film score, something like that. And speaking of getting cinematic, I've got one last idea I want to try. So in this case, I'm using the orchestral distant mix patch, and I'm really pushing the reverb as well as the delay, and I'm making use of this filter, dialing back some of the highs and also dialing back the attack. Now we've got this like really cool pad vibe going on, which sounds like this. So cool. I'm going to throw these chords down. So let's see if that works. Okay, here goes nothing. All right, now this whole section is really cooking. Oh, and I almost forgot about the glissandos. So we'll create one for the very end of this section here. So you pick your starting point, click the step input button, choose your quantize amount. In this case, I got it to 30-second notes. And we could just put our scale in note by note. Don't worry about the velocity. You can fix that afterwards. And there it is. Now, it might sound a little bit off, so you can just easily select all your MIDI, use the draw tool to create a velocity curve. Sounds pretty cool. And there's other ways to do it too. You could use a MIDI arpeggiator as well. I should also mention that I'm doubling these glissando parts with this orchestral distant mix, which I just thought sounded like a cool complement to add a bit of depth to those runs. So without the main harp in the mix. So the idea behind this texturization, again, is just to kind of lift up this B section and create a bit of contrast so that when we get back to the main section, we kind of tighten up and feel more intimate again. So starting from this B section, let's just listen back and see if we accomplish that. So I think I'll leave it there for this video, guys. That was so much fun. Thank you so much for joining me. And if you want more information about the Navia Harp, as well as countless other incredible products, make sure to go to steinberg.net or hit up the links in the description of this video. My name's Stevie B. I'll see you next time.